One of the other things that I've really liked about watching Mary Fowler over the last 6 months is she seems now so much more comfortable in this team. And you sort of saw that when she celebrated her goal. So I remember when she scored her first goal and it was quite, she was a little bit like, oh, like, what do I do? I don't know. I do a couple little high fives. I'm like, oh yeah, thanks. And like had a little smile. But the goal that she scored against Brazil, like the first person that she ran to was Sammy. And she wrapped her arms around her and she hugged, and everyone flocked over to her. And she just had this huge beaming grin on her face. So you can tell really that Mary is starting to understand and really appreciate the role that she now plays in this team. It feels like she knows that she is appreciated, that she belongs there. And that is such a huge deal, I think, for a young player coming in, particularly given the situation with Mary after the last couple of years, where there was this back and forth about who she would declare for. And everyone had already sort of heard about this wonderful teen sensation called Mary Fowler, but nobody had ever really seen her play at the international level. And so we didn't really know. She was this just surrounded by questions. She was like that meme with all the little question marks around her. So we didn't really know. And I think, even though she was young and she seemed to have been shielded from it quite a bit, it did seem to sort of affect her when she first came into the Matildas fold. I think she didn't really know where she sat with people. And maybe that's because of the situation with her family and her almost being used as a bit of a pawn in political games. But now she's here and she's proving herself to them and she's proving that she belongs. She's now starting to internalize that, I think. And so you see that in the way that she celebrates. You see it, as you said, Harry, in the way that she commits to the rest of the team stuff that you need to do on the field, the stuff that, even though she's an absolute superstar, it's the smaller things that you need to do in order to help everyone else around you to be better. So she's starting to do all that sort of stuff now. And I think that is what's going to make her an exceptional player moving forward.
It's interesting. I was looking back I had a one-on-one chat with Tony before the Olympics, and I asked about Mary Fowler and Kyra, and he talked about all the things we've just been talking about. And the quote that I remember using was, he basically said, and this is pre-Olympics as a note, they need to come in and feel that there's other players to actually carry this team in this tournament. And they're these young, energetic, sparkling, free from fear players that come in and do their thing when they get the playing time, whether they start or come off the bench. I want them to be themselves and the best version of themselves and not feel that they have expectations to break through, just to come out and play and enjoy the moment and being in this tournament. I've seen a little bit of commentary online since the game asking, why isn't Mary Fowler playing more at the Olympics? I think it's worth having some context. Let's have a look at some of the Matildas forwards. Sam Kerr speaks for herself. Caitlin Ford, Arsenal superstar. Hayley Raso wasn't there this weekend, but Place is now at Manchester City, and a move from Everton. Kai Simon, one of our best players at the Olympics. She didn't have mugs in front of her. And also, when you're playing so many games close together and you're trying to manage workloads and get a player settled in, I can't imagine you'd be trying to burn out a young player by back-to-back starting roles. I think we're just seeing the constant evolution of Mary Fowler. And you mentioned Sam, she was almost surprised by her goals early on. There are a couple that copped deflections and that sort of thing. But this one was just so pure. Just the header, she nailed it, couldn't have done it any better. And just such an exciting player, just a joy to watch.
I wonder if that sort of, put on the kids and put on the kids for 90 minutes sort of perspective maybe comes from our last teen sensation was Ellie Carpenter, who had a very steep trajectory to being in, she was just suddenly in the Matildas and a mainstay because she was fantastic. But also I think possibly that could have been due to the sort of, depth that we would have had in the defensive line and still possibly in the defensive line. But anyway, yes, you're right, Harriet. And I think it's great that it's sort of been an incremental sort of bit by bit with Mary, and in terms of her development, as you say, over the past 6 months in particular. I remember Sam talking about, is it really loud? Anyway, after the Netherlands game, I think it was, she was sort of playing, you talked about how she was playing sort of she didn't really want to be there 100%, and then something has shifted, and like Anna said there, she's obviously got a team around her that is bringing out the best and has been able to sort of, I guess, light a fire under her belly and get her to work hard, and she wants to work hard as well with that, the sort of meshing in with this team as well. So yeah, it's been really fantastic, I think, just watching her grow over the past this year in particular.